51, but we're joined by Wayne Madsen, of course, NSA whistleblower and investigative journalist, to discuss ISIS and a whole host more. Wayne Madsen, welcome to the show.
Hi, good to be with you, Paul.
Thanks for being here. First off, I mean, we're going to get into ISIS soon. I wanted to get your quick take. I don't know how closely you've been following it on the Ebola outbreak, of course, because we've had this botched response from the CDC, it seems, the first two cases there in Dallas. Do you think that this is merely incompetence on behalf of the public health authorities, or are we seeing some kind of deliberate malfeasance?
Well, I just returned from a conference in Tehran last week, and of course, Tehran, in my mind, was going to be a great place to find out all about ISIL or ISIS, or whatever you want to call this group. But I actually discovered some things about Ebola while I was there, which I didn't think I would in that particular venue. First of all, one of my colleagues, Dr. Randy Short, produced a patent for the Ebola virus from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It was patented a few years ago, has a barcode on it. It's a government document. That was a little bit surprising, but what was even more surprising is when I took a tour through the former torture chambers of the dreaded Shah's secret police, the Savak, and discovered that the head of that particular unit, a guy named Parvez Sabati, has been living here in the United States for over 30 years in Orlando, operating a business out of a P.O. box and out of private residences. And his daughter, who serves on his board for one of these companies that doesn't have a real address, it turns out that she was responsible at Harvard. She's a Harvard biologist for mapping the Ebola virus from an animal gene pool to the human gene pool. Now, you put the patent together with that kind of information. Here's somebody whose father was a brutal torturer, and you have to wonder what is behind this sudden outbreak of Ebola, which we had an outbreak in Zaire. It's actually called the Zaire Ebola virus some years ago, but it was eradicated in Zaire, now Congo, Democratic Republic Congo. How come it all of a sudden appears in these three West African countries that have been rife with civil wars and coups d'etats brought about mostly by countries that are after their natural resources, gold, diamonds, and iron, and of course, Israel figures very big in that operation. They've been responsible for an attempt to overthrow the government of Guinea, and they were involved in supplying both sides in the very bloody civil wars in both Liberia and Sierra Leone. I'm very suspicious about Ebola, and especially where we saw the outbreak in the hot zones right now in those three countries.
Let's turn to ISIS then, because over the weekend we had ISIS almost taking the town of Kobani in Syria. They're making advances in western Baghdad. I mean, the U.S. offensive against ISIS, the airstrikes, only seem to have bolstered ISIS. Now they're expanding their spread throughout the region. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, and who is this ISIS? I spoke to Islamic scholars in Tehran who said this group has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. It has a lot to do, of course, with Saudi Arabia, which practices a very heretical form of Islam known as Wahhabism. They, on the other hand, look at any other Islamic sect, whether Shia, Sufis, or even other Sunni sects, as apostates and heretics. But this Wahhabist sect was born out of the British Foreign Office and during the Ottoman reign. It's not real Islam. And then you look at ISIL, and you look at the fact that there's 12,000 foreign mercenaries from 81 different countries, including the United States, Canada, and many in Western Europe, who have no affiliation through marriage or family or anything with Islam. And you have to wonder, what is ISIL? Is this actually the implementation of something known as the Yinon Plan, formulated in 1982 by an Israeli journalist named Oded Yinon, which talked about breaking apart the other Arab countries surrounding Israel into warring factions. And that's exactly what we're seeing today in Syria and Iraq. And look who's been promoting these rebels. Neocons like John McCain and the other neocons in the State Department, the same people who brought about the total destruction of Iraq as a nation. That's who's behind ISIL. And then you look at these demonstrations against Africans in Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel and by these right-wing settlers, and they're all wearing ISIL T-shirts and waving the ISIL flag. They even found a bag of ISIL flags. Some gardeners found a bag of ISIL flags, brand new flags that had fallen off a truck in northern Israel. I would suggest that ISIL is an operation that was formulated by the U.S., CIA, the Mossad, and Saudi intelligence in the person of Prince Bandar, and we know how dirty he is, especially his name's all over those missing 28 pages from that Senate Joint Senate Intelligence Report on 9/11. So here are the real enemies of the United States, and we're told by idiots like John McCain that they are our allies. I'm afraid not, because on September 11th, the leading Eastern Christian patriarchs met with President Obama in the White House and told him there was no such thing as Syrian moderate rebels, that his support for the Syrian opposition had led and would lead to deaths amongst Syrian Christians and other minorities. And the same group was then spoken to by Ted Cruz, who's a Christian Zionist. And by the way, many Christians and even Islamic people well-versed in the New Testament told me in Tehran that the idea of Christian Zionism is a heresy to Christian religion. It's a heresy to the teachings of Jesus and what is in the New Testament. And there's no place in Christianity. You can't be a Zionist and a Christian at the same time. So I have news for people like Ted Cruz. He better make a decision on what he wants to be. He can't be both. And I would even suggest he can't be president. He was born in Canada. So his rhetoric is not helpful to this debate we see about what's going on in the Middle East right now.
We have a story here out of BBC News. Turkey allows Syria rebel training. Turkey has agreed to allow moderate Syrian rebels to be trained on its soil, the US says, in its bid to combat the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq. We've also got Saudi Arabia training those so-called moderate rebels. We've got the United States sending them more money, more arms, and yet we know that these arms, in many cases, fell directly into the hands of ISIS. And in fact, those so-called moderate rebels defected to and joined up with ISIS and gave them those arms that they had received from the likes of Jordan, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, in addition to Turkey. So, Wayne, I mean, to what extent is the US policy in Syria of destabilizing the Assad regime responsible for the growth of ISIS?
Absolutely connected to the growth of ISIL or ISIS, or as the Arabs call it, Daesh. This group, first of all, we know that McCain, with this fake PhD, Elizabeth O'Baghy, went into Syria last year and met with al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS. Their picture was taken with him. And they've tried to dance around this issue. But these ISIL guys are basically paid for by the Qataris and the Saudis. As a matter of fact, this coalition of Obama is a joke, because we're told that Saudi and Emirati and Qatari and Bahraini pilots are flying missions against this group in Iraq and Syria, when in fact I was told by a Syrian who was in Tehran with me that huge packages of cash have arrived in ISIL hands in Aleppo in Syria, complete with the Saudi and Qatari bank stamps on the wrappers around the cash. So this has to be the first time that we've seen a military attack groups that they're also financing. Their home governments are financing. The whole thing's a ruse. I'm afraid that the U.S. is not attacking ISIL positions. It's attacking Syrian military positions, Assad positions. For example, the U.S. claims it attacked the city of Raqqa in eastern Syria. It was 2 days after ISIL forces left the city. So we see this time. The U.S. also attacked a Syrian Air Force base that had not been taken over by ISIL. It was in the hands of the Syrian Air Force. I would suggest that either Obama is lying to the American people, or his own military and intelligence services are not telling him what's going on the ground over there. Perhaps he should send private emissaries over there. As I was in Tehran, he should send people to Damascus and to Tehran and to Beirut and find out himself what's going on over there. Those Eastern Christian patriarchs certainly told him, and he seemed surprised when they said, oh, there's no such thing as Syrian moderate rebels. He seemed surprised at that. And this guy's supposed to be intelligent, and he's surprised by that. I'm surprised that he's surprised.
We'll be back with Wayne Madsen after the break. We're going to get into the beheading videos, which of course have aroused suspicion. They've served as a perfect propaganda tool for airstrikes on ISIS, and yet we're told they're being produced by ISIS militants. Also going to go to your calls for Wayne Madsen on ISIS, Ebola and more. It's the Alex Jones Show live, Infowars.com. Stay right there.
My Magic Mud is a tooth whitening powder that removes plaque and detoxifies your mouth. It's safe for your enamel, giving you a beautiful polish and a dentist-like clean after every use. My Magic Mud is also the perfect remedy for pain caused by sensitivity. It strengthens your teeth and gums for a strong, healthy smile. The ingredients are 100% natural and it's safe for children. Simply brush with My Magic Mud right before bedtime for a cleaning you can count on. Visit mymagicmud.com.
Digestive health is key to wellness, and Pro-EM1 is the key to digestive health. Pro-EM1 is a daily liquid probiotic that improves food absorption and supports weight loss by removing toxins from your system. Recommended by doctors, Pro-EM1 is 100% natural, organic, non-GMO, wheat, soy, gluten, and dairy-free. Call us today at 888-611-8025 or visit ProEM1.com to save over $25 on your order. That's 888-611-8025 or PROEM1.com.
If you have candida overgrowth, just taking antifungal agents or starving yourself of sweets does not address the cause. Candida overgrowth is the result of a toxic, damaged, acidic, low oxygen, and inflamed tissue environment. The goal should be to remove the toxins, heal damaged tissues, restore healthy pH, eliminate inflammation, and feed beneficial bacteria. Previous usage of antibiotics or steroids or exposure to mercury or other toxins can damage many cells in the GI tract and body that make you prone to candida overgrowth. Removing toxins and healing tissues should be the goal. One World Whey is a whey protein food that supports detoxification, repair of tissues, and elimination of inflammation, healthy pH, and growth of beneficial bacteria. One World Whey is duly reformulated to be higher in protein and lower in carbohydrate. We believe One World Whey is an excellent food to support your efforts to create a healthy internal body environment. Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld.com.
Hi folks, Alex Jones here with some important information. I want to tell you about Matt Redhawk and his team of patriots over at My Patriot Supply. Several years ago, Matt was sitting in his two-bedroom apartment, frustrated with the direction this country was headed and the charlatans willing to sell us out for a quick buck. Deciding to take action, a company run by patriots for patriots was born. My Patriot Supply has never taken a loan or accepted outside funding. They now operate 2 distribution facilities and employ over 50 hardworking American men and women. It is rare to find companies who practice what they preach. And that's why I stock my pantry with high-quality storable foods from My Patriot Supply. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today for special offers on emergency food storage, or call their preparedness specialist at 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Do business with someone who shares your values. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex.
What good is a Big Berkey water filter?
We get that question a lot here at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And in a word, the answer is protection. Protection from water main breaks, E. coli contamination, environmental chemical spills, pesticide runoff, chlorine taste and smell, and all forms of fluoride. Plus, Big Berkey water filters are the original gravity water filter system and most trusted on the market for a reason. Tested by multiple independent NSF EPA certified labs, they are the gold standard in water purification. At only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. That means big savings. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water.